Welcome to the Real Board Loft. I'm Trip Foreman, and this is the Vernor Thumbtack. David calls this board his good-looking, handsome counterpart to the Vernor Mini Simmons. We just happen to have a Mini Simmons here, so we're going to pull it in. When Vernor made the Mini Simmons, he without any hesitation whatsoever, he just said, "This board is ugly, but just use it for what it's good for." And what it's good for is generating a lot of speed, a lot of horsepower, and super smooth rolling, gliding turns and speeds on a wave that you really can't attain with other boards. Some people do have a hang up on just the overall outline of the board, especially the tail, like having that big of a square tail. I will tell you, if you can get over that hump, you're going to have a board that just creates a level of performance that none of your other boards do. But if you can't get over that hump, there's the Thumbtack. And so the Thumbtack is putting everything that's in the Mini Simmons into a little bit more conventional looking outline, and having it be also at the same time just a little bit different than the Mini Simmons. Before I take this board away, what I want you to do is just kind of in your memory bank, burn the outlines of these boards and the tail shapes of these boards into them, so when we're talking about this board, you still remember this board. So looking at the Thumbtack, what it has in common with the Mini Simmons is, one, the overall kind of outline of the board, the rolled rails. You can see that the rails roll all the way up to the top here. So the board's really forgiving when you're dropping into the wave, and when you're edging it, when you're putting an edge into the water. It's really easy to put the edge into the water, and it's really easy to not purl, basically. What I found about this board is it auto saves a lot of things where any other nose would go underneath the water. Having this upturned rail in the front of the board saves you, and the Thumbtack also has that. Going through the board, the Thumbtack also has that belly bottom, the displacement hull bottom. The entire way through the board, when you get to about here, you've got a very, very subtle double concave. So you've got a concave in between the stringer and the rail, but it's very, very subtle. And the center and the highest point still is that stringer line, and then just goes to a V out the tail of the board. This board, when you look at them side by side, looks very, very similar. The subtle differences are going to be that this board is a little bit thinner size per size. It's a little bit narrower size per size, and there's a touch more rocker in the board size per size. So what that gives you, everything, as we've learned in this video series, everything's a give and take. So the Mini Simmons, by having the flatter of the two rockers, by having the wider nose and the substantially wider tail block, is designed for maximum horsepower, where the Thumbtack gets a lot of what the Mini Simmons gives as far as the performance. It's going to give up the absolute bottom end, and we're talking about, from here down, and it's going to then give you a little bit more on the top end, and also a little bit more performance in rounder, like more powerful surf. But you can ride this, especially if you're an above intermediate level or better. You can ride this all the way down to the ultra gravel. I don't even want to surf anymore, it's unrideable, and you can ride it in good surf as well. The feeling that this, if you've never surfed a Mini Simmons, you're like, what's up with this whole Mini Simmons thing? The feeling that this board has is it builds up a lot of momentum. And so like where concave boards are bursts of speed, the displacement hull glides through the water, much like a rowing shell or a fast sailboat, or something that goes through the water and builds up momentum. The hull shape, it tends to not slap and chatter and stop. It carries a lot of its speed through the turns, and it also rolls into turns at low speeds as well as high speeds. A lot of concave boards only will roll into turns effectively like at medium and high speeds, and low speeds they feel kind of stiff because the concave bottom is actually fighting you. The convex bottom, or the belly bottom in the displacement hulls, will roll rail to rail at low, medium, and high speeds, and make it really easy to turn the board in a lot of different directions, because there's no hang-ups based on the concave in the bottom of the board. This board, because it has a little bit narrower nose and a little bit narrower tail, is going to have its sweet spot in slightly better surf than the Mini Simmons, but also like go well into the low end for those better surfers. This board that we're holding right here is Vernor's higher end construction, which is the Marco Foam EPS core. It's a 2-pound foam EPS core with the Resin Research epoxy resin. So one of the best blanks that you can get and one of the best resins that you can get. Generous allotment of vector net mesh reinforcement in the tail. So whether you're all the way back or just forward to the tail, like your heels are still going to be, the heel area, like where your heel is just hammering into the board, is going to be reinforced. One of the things you'll find on all David Vernor's higher end EPS epoxy boards is this Vernor Ibm Suspension System. You can find it on his boards when you see this distinctive black V on the bottom of the board. A lot of people think that this is just, some people actually even think it's just a Vernor logo, the V logo. But what it is inside the board, David routes a very thin groove from the rail through both fin boxes to the center line, and then in the other direction out to the other rail. Drops in 1 1/16 deep stringer down into the board of carbon, going in both directions, and then caps it with a carbon strip in both directions. Also on these rail boxes, on the forward rail boxes, he's using the Futures jig and router bit to cut away a little bit of the stringer and actually tie those boxes, both the rail boxes and then also the trailer box, into those carbon stringers, so that it ties it all in as one and then caps it with that carbon strip. What this is doing is it's reducing or eliminating the torsional flex of the board. So that torsional flex is where you're bleeding your speed and losing a lot of forward drive and forward speed from your surfboard. This Ibm system reduces or eliminates all of that flex and transfers it all into down the line speed. So check it out, that's what this V is, and that's what's actually happening underneath that carbon strip that you can't see. David also recommends, if you want to get even more speed from your board, to use the Futures Vector foiled fins, which has a positive foil on the outside and a negative foil on the inside on the side fins, and that's going to tie in with this system really well and give you even more speed out of this Ibm suspension system. So the Thumbtack, again, for somebody that likes everything that they hear about the Mini Simmons style design, just wants basically a Mini Simmons Slim, or for a little bit better wave, is where the Thumbtack is going to fit into the lineup. And because the tail is brought in just a little bit, it's obviously more open to be running as a thruster. This board, we've ridden it as a thruster, a quad, a 2+1. We've ridden it with the Vernor controllers. It works, actually, it has its pluses and minuses with all the fin systems, but it is open to working as a thruster. So if you're a diehard thruster surfer, this would be a way better board to look at also than the Mini Simmons. So in review, it's everything in surfboard design is a give and take. This board has a lot of the Mini Simmons in it, but just in a more smoothed out package, and it's going to work in a little bit better surf than the Mini Simmons. It's the Vernor Thumbtack. If you have any more questions, you can call us at the shop, 252-987-6000, or you can check out our website, realwatersports.com/surfing. Thanks for tuning in.